That's fucking wild, you know. Wild AI in every freaking direction.
Large but
model, right? Nothing different there compared to the other AI. We need an animator. So the easiest way to do that is we can just go to our AI. I've already created a folder, but I'm just going to go over to our dog, or you can use the deer or the zombie even. We make our animator, we drag it in, we stuff it down, and we're going to give it that. We go over to our animations, which are currently for the dog, and we're going to want to change those. Right, and we're going to want to change them to there's actually, if you're using Malbers, there's two versions of the wolf. I'm not too sure what that's about, right? These are version 2s. Don't use those ones. I want just the normal ones, or else it doesn't quite work for a different model. So we simply have the run and the walks. Right, nothing special there. It's that if you really wanted to, we could rename these things and do an override controller, and it would work just fine for this kind of thing. Now, if you're going to do, you know, a mass difference in animations of the styles, you might not want to do an override controller, but lots of times you could. Right, like for everything we've been doing, we could actually probably be doing overrides. Oh, I'm in the fox. All right, so bite left and bite right. Did I do these ones right? No, of course not. So we got death and the damage. I got those ones right. Right, so there's our animator, right? I mean, it's that easy to set up right now. So looking at what we need our site. It's that easy to set up right now. So looking at what we need our site object. So this is now kind of more on the physical components. Oh, not sites. It's just called site. Let's go over to our wolf. I don't like the magic portion of it, so I'm going to unprefab this guy to begin with. Take the site. I'm just going to move it up a bit. And we want more or less the same components as all the other AIs. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy, which I was playing with earlier, but it's the same as what's on the deer and everything. I'm just going to copy and paste because we streamlined everything, right? So I can just paste all this stuff onto this new AI. Right? And so we're just doing our components. That's all we're doing. Adding our streamlined logic. And we can do this for every AI that we make now. Because we've streamlined everything. Everything works. Well, we already got the actions. Need a population remover. And we need our animations, of course. And of course we need our little box collider. The next thing we need to do is make sure we have our layers and tags set up. So like I said, I'm just going to grab everything, put everything to that AI layer and have it as limb. Grab the root, go character, say no, and I think we just called them enemies, did we not? Animals, that's what we called them. There we go. Right, so just like every other AI we have, We have now our basic setup on how we set those all up. Now it doesn't matter what kind of AIs, we can use the same system. We just drop everything in. Now we just do little modifications. Right, the population removed, that's always going to be the same. The animation part of feeding our speed into the animator to control our idle, walk, run is going to be the same. The brain for sight is going to be the same. This template's going to be our what would we call this one? Say our circling effect, our attack and circle, right? So here we have our circle. Now I made an action. Okay, I made an action, and it is called orbit, and I'll link it into the GitHub. So the first thing we're going to need to do is when we come in, we are going to want to have a target from our brain. Our brain needs a target, or not a brain, our actions need a target, right? So what we need to do is we have our target from all of the other logic, and we're going to steal that. So we want to get FSM game object from the action. We want the target and target. Oh, excuse me. All right, so there's target. Now, what do we do with this target? Well, one thing I was playing around with earlier, and I had a little bit of problems in the beginning, is when we want to do, because really what I want to do is this is the player and this is the direction he's looking, right? So we want to be able to attack him from behind and not from the front. But we can't base it off the player because we don't ever rotate the player. It looks like we rotate the player, but we don't. We rotate the camera. So we need to get the camera's rotation. But we only want to do that if it's the player. And if it's the dog, for example, dog doesn't have a camera. So companion compared to player, right? So we can get this, and then all we want to do is once we have that target, we can do a tag compare. So if target is the player, if that's true, it's the player. If it's false, it could be anything else. It's not the player. It's not the player. Well, you know, whatever. You get the idea. It's the player. It's not the player. Oh, good. Look, there we go. Okay. Oh, if it is the player, what do we want to do? Get child. I'm going to get the player's child. That sounds horrendous. Main camera. And you also could just use the action get main camera, because there should only ever be one tag. It's a special Unity thing. All right, get main camera. There's only ever one main camera. It's a Unity thing built in that goes with the logic. So you could actually just say get main camera. If we know it's the player, we know the player's using the main camera, we can just go like that. Or we can get the child and force it, saying, hey, find this object, name this thing. Either way. So all we're doing is we're going to say this is our target, and if it's the player, then this is our new target. We're going to kind of change it. All right. So then we go off into the next thing. All right. So what is the next step? Well, we're going to want to, orbit our player. So like I said, I have an action I made, and it's going to be on the GitHub. It's called orbit. Right, so there's orbit. So we want ourselves to our target, and we're going to get this vector. This is our returned orbit. So we need a distance and then more or less a rotation. So I'm going to select float and a random float. There's a clear difference between those styles. So random float, we want this to say be 6 to 9, and that's, we're going to store that into distance, or distance 3 apparently. That's okay, don't worry about that. And we're going to use 10 and -10. Both these have a 50% chance. We're going to store that into our, we'll call it a Y. So we want to orbit our distance and we want to use our Y. Just like that. We can now, this will now orbit the player. Right, and that's pretty much it. That's all it's got to do. And I think that's, yeah, like that, that's literally it. All right, so we can copy this or go into this, and let's go save template as orbit around, sure, whatever. Getting rid of that, let's go back into our wolf, go into our actions. So here we have our start. All right, we're not using any other states. We have something here, and this is going to be run FSM or template FSM, and we want our orbit around, just like that. That's all it is. So this is going to be, so when this gets called, we're going to be circling our opponent. So what do we need now? Actually, you know what? If we go into this, when it comes to the circle, we don't even care about that. Come to think of it, we can literally just let's just drag this over here. I'll put that at the top though. Make sure that's at the top. There. He's got one state. One state. That's all he really needs for an orbiting action. So now we have orbit. So we need to know when to stop orbiting, right? So this is where we now need to get an angle, but not the, I think there's an angle, get angle to target. Now we could do that one. Target object, ignore height's fine. So we could do this every frame. Now the problem though is we have that that same get FSM game object with that player thing, and this is really where that camera issue comes involved. So we're going to make another state above this one to actually fix that portion, right? So we're going to get, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're going to say alpha, well actually I already made it alpha attack. I named it wrong, so let's rename that. I'm going to make a new transition. So our alpha is going to tell this guy to attack. We don't even have an alpha yet, but when we do, that's going to be it. So get event data. Info, get event info. And we're going to have the alpha tell us what our target is, so that we all attack that same target. And then we can do tag compare. So is target the player? If this is true, it's the player. And if it's not, again, same idea, it's not player. And make sure that this is below that one, right? So we have it's the player and it's not the player. So if it's not the player, we're just going to go down to this guy. And if it is the player, I'm going to make another state here, which is just a copy of this one, but it is the player. And now that's a reason, because the difference to when we actually want to do our attack is going to be different, right? So if it's the player, that's the one we're going to deal with right now. Actually, well, I guess we can deal with this one. So we can get the angle to our target, right? Actually, no, we don't even want to do that. What we really want to do is just get positions. Position. There is an action on eco if eco ever fires back up to get multiple positions in one action. So we want to get it of the target. And we want to get, and that's our, we'll call it the player's position. And ourselves, which is our position. Right? And now we want to vector operator. So we need to operate on these vectors. We're going to move to the bottom, and we're going to take the player's position and our position, and we're just going to subtract them. And that's going to give us a direction. We can normalize that. Put that right to the bottom, and make sure these are on every frame, all of them. Right, and now we want to get forward, right? So this is the, it's not a player, right? So the forward is going to be of the target, and that's going to be the big difference. So this is targets forward every frame. And the reason why we do that is because now we can do a vector 3 operator again. Move to the bottom. And this one's also every frame. And now we can take the targets forward. Oh, make sure I use the right one. Targets. Yeah, targets. And our direction. And we're going to do this thing called a dot product, and it comes out with a dot. I have a variable called dot. I'm just going to put it in there. If not, just make one. And then float compare. Move to the bottom. So now what we need is we're going to compare our dot to something. I'm going to go, you know what, I wrote this over here. This is me cheating. No, I'm just kidding, I'm not actually cheating. I'm trying to just do what's best. Greater than the -2. We go back in and orbit. Or no, go in and attack. So greater than the -2. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but sure. So what dot is if you have two directions, such as the forward direction of an object and the direction you currently are to that object, now you have two directions, is how well these directions match up, going in the same direction, right? And you get a -1 to 1. So we're going to go -0.2. If it's greater, we need to attack. We're going to have an event called go in and attack. So there we go. Now that's where the difference is though, right? Because we can do all the same stuff, right? All the get positions, all the same stuff, identical in this one. Get rid of this fucking angle to target. The difference though is we can't get the forward to the target because the player's rotation never actually changes. So this is where we need to change this one to get that camera. Get main camera, right? If you're using the main camera on the, look, I have a variable called target cam. Perfect. Move to the top. So we want to get the forward of that target cam instead. If it's the player. Beyond that, it's the same. Everything's the same. All right. So now we can go in and attack. So we're going to make another FSM here, another template for actually attacking. So in this one, we need to get FSM game object. We need to know what we're attacking. So from our actions, we're going to get our target. There is our target. Okay. So we have a target. We need to set agent destination as game object. We are going after the target. We also want to get distance to target. And now we have a distance to our target every frame. So we need a few checks in here. Is null, right? If we happen to have, if target becomes null, we just want to make sure we put stuff like this in just to catch any possible errors. Okay, we've lost the target. And if that's the case, we're going to tell this FSM to finish. But without that, what we need to do is, if we're not null and we got this distance, we need to float compare. Distance. And if say we're in 3, if say we're less than 3 maybe, we're going to attack. So now this is a universal FSM because this is going to be a template, right? So we can do random event and we only have 2 attacks in this because we have the left and the right. That's fine. I mean, you can add more. Let's set animator int. Random attack, we have 0 and finish and copy and paste and go here and we have 1. And now we attack. And then with the actual attack is based on the trigger though. Set animator trigger. All right, so we choose the attack and then we attack. Now when that happens, we also want to say smooth look at. We want to be looking at our target during this. Keep vertical. We don't need a finish. Well, I mean, I guess you could have a finish, whatever. And then we need to wait. All right, we need to wait, and you can do a random float here as well if you wanted to kind of mix it up a bit. Mixing. And then we're just going to restart this whole bloody thing. All right, and that's our attack template. All right, so save. it is with an A. No, we're going to get rid. We go back into our wolf, we go into our actions, we turn around and we say, okay, we're going to go in for the attack. We want to run an FSM for attack template right there. There we go. Now, while we're here though, we need to, again, do some alterations. I'll move this crap over here. Should almost just delete it. Because here we have our event stuff happening, right? And you know what? I should almost split this up here. So that we're not re-getting the event info. We can just get it once. Target, and then keep that way. So here, if we finish, then we have lost target. So he's going to lose target. Where is my lost? There's my lost target. Right, and we can go, say, up here. And if it's null, we should probably run a check in here as well. Put it above that one. If target is null, we have no target, and we're going to need to get a target. What is it called? It has no target. So what happens when you put in a lot of variables and crap? Have no target. And then we have something that branches off of there, obviously. All right, such as go and find another target, or, you know, go back to wandering. So now, so we go into attack. We're attacking our target. If we lost our target, we go up here. I was thinking I need 2 of those. There's a reason for that, and I forget why, but whatever. All right, so here we can now, in this one, if we wanted to, we could copy this, and let's say get FSM game object. And let's check our brain and see what our brain has for a target, right? And if we have a target, or oh, we already have has no target. All right, fine. As target. Right, so we have target, don't have target. So we have has no target. And has target. So if we have a target, then we might as well just go back here, because we've gotten this one we can run through. If we have no target, we're going to go back to our idle, which is going to end up being over here. I'm just going to stick that over here for now. We'll look at that in a minute. So here though, we need to, oh yeah, right, that's what I was looking at. So we have this, right, this whole dot system, and we need that again. That's why I had 2 of these. We're going to stick that down here. And what that is now, this is go into attack. So what happens if we are less than this, right? We need to somehow retreat. So let's orbit again. And then we can go up here. All right, so that's why we copy that one, paste this one here, only this one we're going to get rid of, say those guys, and we want to bring in these ones. Nope, these ones. Oh my god, which one do we do? So we have get forward direction. So this one's based on the non-player, where this guy is the player. This one's for the player. So we need to go down here, right? And this one, let's copy all of this stuff, paste it before. There we have. Orbit again, we go up here. So we just kind of have two little versions here, right? One for if we have the player targeted, one if we don't have the player targeted. Pretty simple. Right there. So now we need a target, right? We need something to follow. So now we need to build another variable. Now I just deleted a bunch of them. We'll call it our leader, just like that. And in this guy, all we're going to do is get FSM game object from our actions. We need our leader. There is our leader, and we need to random float, get 2 of those. So we need an X, right? And we can go, I don't know, -3 to 3, and we need a Z, and that will be, say, a -2 to a -4 maybe. Transform point, how we convert something's local to a world. So we want to convert our leader, and we need to set vector 3. We need a vector to actually use, so this is going to be a new variable called offset. So now these happen. This doesn't need to happen every frame, but the X is going to be X and the Z is going to be Z. This doesn't need to happen every frame, but this one does. And we need to offset our offset. We get our result as target location. I don't know. And then set agent destination at the bottom. Move to the bottom and target location every frame. That's it. So I'm just going to save that. Oh, I don't know why I keep going out of that to save it. Save as template. Follow leader. And no, get rid of that, delete that, go into here, go into our actions, and if we have this return to flee, let's get rid of all this crap, and let's run an FSM, or run a template, and it is follow leader. We also need to set agent speed. So if it's under the attack, let's go 4. If it's under this, let's go 2, maybe 1. So the alpha, what is the alpha? And really the alpha, I'm just going to duplicate our wolf, rename this one alpha. You know, maybe the alpha is a little bigger. Maybe he's got more hit points. wolves. So we can run a random int, and we'll say, I don't know, 3 to 6, 3 to 7. Wolfpack value. We also need a an array for the wolf pack itself, and all we want to do is create a wolf, and the created wolf, we're going to add it to the wolf pack. And we want to loop this state. And the other thing we want to do is we want to set event. We want to get owner. We need to set FSM game object. On the little wolf. For our leader. And that's going to be on the created though, and its variable is going to be ourself. Put that above the loop, and then we also want to set or send an event. But make sure to put these in order, or there will be issues. Sending it to the wolf. We want the wolf action to return to flee on the created. And that is it. I didn't put the spawn point. So the spawn point is good. You can't just drag itself in because this is a template. We don't want to do that. We need to use the owner. Spawn point is owner. So in the actions, we want to run FSM. Create followers. You know what? Use this one instead. Because now we can have that variable. You can't do it with the run FSM. So once that's created, bool test. Let's just take a quick look at the deer on this thing. Has target. That's what we need, is the has target. I think I probably deleted that. Yes. So we need to remake that has target. So if true, and if false. So if false, all we want to do here is run an FSM on the alpha to wander. Oh man, I got two of them. Let's check which one. All right. The wander, we have idle chance, wander distance. We'll give him a huge range though, because he's a wolf. And we'll give him a, we'll just tell him to wander to 1. You might want to go with a higher speed on these guys. So if we have a target,
pushing the buttons on the TV and Mommy told you to stop it, and now the TV won't work. So just enough.
I want some soap.
so if we're going to attack, we need to go through our pack and we need to loop. And we have it done. More or less, what we want to do is we want to tell all our wolves to attack. So on the loop, all we want to do is send an event, and we want to set event. Right, so we're just going to put one little state right here. We want to get our target. From the brain, we're going to get our target, set it as target. Into here, we'll loop all through our wolves. We're going to set the game object data to target and tell the wolves that this is our target. There we go. And then when we're done, we need ourselves to attack, right? So we're going to run almost the same logic as we did on these. So we're going to set a speed. But we also want the target. And we want the same idea of, well, we're not going to need the null. It's more or less, it's a player or no player. Actually, you know what? We can probably keep that just in case. Why not? So we have no target. So this is to go back to a wander. So here we have the normal go in and attacks, and that's all fine. That's not going to change. But we've lost the target. And here, because if we're going to go and wander, ultimately what we want to do is run through another array. And kind of like this one, but we don't need to set any event data. We're just going to send an event to return to flee. Right, so that's going to be, we has no target. Get rid of that one. We're done. We return to our wander. So we have our alpha is going to have its own attack and orbiting and stuff. And let's make sure this guy has the right objects for sight, or that's going to cause issues. And bring him over. Get rid of that. We don't need those. So the alpha. Now if we take an alpha, let's delete him. Let's just put the alpha over here. And let's run a quick little test and make sure he is doing what he is meant to be doing. What a noob mistake, eh? We really don't need to run that every single time we come into that action. That's open that, create followers, edit. When we get here, finish FSM. There we go. And you know, if I swap this over to run FSM, or compared to the run template, they essentially do the same thing. But this one allows us to debug a lot better. Get into that. Oh, not the followers. So that's going to be why it's the same on both of them. We get a position and we don't set destination. So to the returned, every frame is under this guy. We have that stopping distance. I'm just going to bring that down a tiny bit. Crazier. And let's just go into here and let's actually duplicate this and make a third state, and we'll have this one as the start. We can get the object there, and then here, back and forth. Instead of that, let's go like this. Let's get rid of that. Let's do a random event. We'll use 1 and 2 just to give us a little bit of variety. 1 and 2. So in here, set float value, because we still need to set that float, because we're not getting it now from the up top. So we're going to get our y and put it to, say, I don't know, 15 here. Copy that, bring it over here, and make this one a negative 15. Get rid of these select floats. And now, random weight, and let's say, I don't know, 3 to 8, and then switch. And copy that, paste it over here. And switch. So now they'll alternate rotations while they're running as well. Into the alpha, let's fix his sight. Alright, so we want, let's see that sight angle to be 360. We want the sight range to be, we'll say 80. I'm going to take that up to 1.5 though, because of that. That one little thing caused that. Pretty crazy. Alright, so now we have all the wolves, and they are now attacking and running around all wild, going and trying to get in behind us so that they can attack. And if we watch, they are going, and they'll change. They'll change locations. Now the only thing we really need is some sound and some hit effects on them, and they would be just unreal, huh?